Hello, my fellow music lovers. I'm Allison Hagendorf, and welcome to the show. This is where we celebrate the universal love of music and the rock and roll spirit that lives in each of us. My guest today is the band Dogstar. Yes, this is Keanu Reeves' band. He plays bass. Bret Domrose is on lead vocals and guitar, with Rob Mailhouse on drums. I also wanted to note that we recorded this interview prior to the current strike. We talk all about why reuniting now was the right time for new music and a tour, the band's musical influences, what it was like to open for David Bowie, how not one, but two of the band's members were in the movie Speed, and most importantly, we also talk all about Keanu's love of cereal. And stay tuned after the show for my sound advice. New music you need to know. It all starts now. Well, guys, congratulations on the next era of Dogstar.
Thank you.
And I feel very grateful because I was at the Bottle Rock show, your first show in 20 years, and it was awesome. How did it feel?
They were really nice to us. It was a special day, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the promoters were awesome. Fans, or not fans, but the audience was awesome.
The weather was
good.
The
weather was
kind of
good.
magical, actually. You know, I was very overwhelmed, and that was just because it was our first show in so long, and we jumped into the deep end.
Yeah.
So I was personally like, ooh, but it kind of after the third song, you know, we felt the love of everything, and you know,
it's hard for anything to be bad in Napa Valley.
It's true.
I mean, you're already ahead of the game when you're like, wow. And you're looking around, there's like vineyards and everyone was happy and the weather was good. And like Keanu was saying, the sound was good. The promoters were great. We had our old tour manager, T-Rod, with us doing the sound, and our friends were there. And it just, there was something about it that just seemed to be really relaxing. And and then until we walked on stage and saw all those people, they were like, ah.
Everyone was very excited. I mean, it was such a great response. And you're right, Bottle Rock is the best festival because it's literally, there's like a culinary stage, you know? I mean,
can't all festivals
be
like that?
It's like an unfestival.
We had paella for breakfast. I didn't know what to eat because, you know, it's hard to eat. And it's like, you know, if you're an athlete, you don't like eat before the
right,
game.
Of course.
Or you do. You got to eat something, you'll pass out. So I'm thinking, we got there and my wife's like, they have paella. And I was like, what time is it?
And vegan options as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, we have about 3 hours.
Nothing speaks
trying
to rock like paella.
Apparently. I mean, we're learning this now.
It is. Yeah. And then the pizza, the thing.
It was amazing. Plus the Dogstar return. I mean, it was just an epic day, like you said. And as a fan, we felt it. It was very, very magical. And you can tell I loved watching your Instagram posts. Like, you could tell how psyched you guys were as well to be there. And it was beautiful. It was a beautiful bond.
Yeah. And we were playing our new music.
Yes.
You know? So we were, you know, it was really special for us. And yeah, it's cool to enter back into the world like that.
Yes. And that's what's so exciting. That's not just new shows. You have a new album that you have been working on and you just announced will be coming later this year. So amazing. Now, this is your third studio album.
Yes.
And it's been about 23 years. Happy Ending came out in 2000. So it's been a minute. And we're very excited. I'd love to hear more about the album.
Wow. Okay. So how do we? All right.
Why was now the time? Like, why did now make sense?
You know, we've been getting together through those years, even starting as far back as, I mean, I remember getting together.
For those of you who don't know, we broke up for 20 years.
Yeah.
Just in case.
But we kind of,
simple background.
We did, but we kind of didn't. Like, we were always at the house sort of woodshedding around. I mean, 2011, 2000, I think 2011, 2010. And then a little bit in 2015.
That's 10 years ago.
Isn't that
15
weird?
years ago.
I know, that's crazy, right?
It's
but
crazy.
We never left the basement. And we just would come around once in a while. And then, Bret moved to San Francisco and things started happening. And then all of a sudden we just had I think it was the break, it was COVID where everyone sort of took a deep dive on their lives. And something magical might have happened, being in that sort of isolation where you really, the world sort of stops and you look at all the things that you miss or, things that you love. And that was clearly one of them. And And we just decided, at the tail end of that, to get together and, let's just try something different. And that something different was Bret was going to come down and basically live with me and for a couple of weeks, and we'd just see if we could write. So we did like 8 or 9, 10 hours a day.
Wow.
And I was like Bret always says, like some of these songs, I don't even know how we came up with them. They sort of, I don't want to say they wrote themselves, but it is sort of looking back on it. I don't, it was sort of one of those magical things. And at the house, Keanu would come in with ideas and Bret would take them and turn into choruses and layers and beats would come. And it was just one of those things we just settled in for 2 weeks.
Wow. The planets were aligned. It was it was like a silver lining situation. You guys were like forced to be in one place and reconnect and put everything in perspective and have your love of music shine through.
It was concentrated.
Yes. Yes.
The whole experience was, me living with Rob and, I think
spooning.
There was some make the best use
Obviously.
of time, while Bret's in town, kind of, that I think really helped the process where we were, self-imposed full-time employees at that point.
Right.
I think down
Yeah,
there.
but that came with the idea of like, let's try and write. Let's make a record.
Yeah.
It was like getting together. I think it was like, let's play shows, but then it was, don't you feel like we kind of like declared, we put a flag down and said, okay, let's write music to make a record, right?
Yeah, and I think we flirted with the idea of trying to come up with some riffs beginning-ish of COVID or something.
Yeah.
Remember, I was like not wanting to come out of my house, and there was talk of like, let's see if we can. But it took a little while after that.
Yeah, we did that actually a couple of years before.
Yeah, it was
like 2018, 2019.
Was it?
Yeah, 2019,
I
2020.
can't quite remember when it was. But
This was a long time
I
coming.
thought I remembered
Yeah.
it was like during COVID though. But anyway.
See, these are the effects of long COVID.
We went to Nightingale's way before.
Yeah.
When we went to Nightingale's, that was like 2019.
You know what? You might be right. I have it on the phone. But
Okay.
So anyway, it's been a long time coming. And
Yes.
like Rob said, we've been getting together on and off over the years, little bits here and there, but with never really any end game in mind other than let's just hang out and see what,
just have fun.
plug in and play. And then this time we made the effort of like, let's make a record or let's see if we can make a record, right? Like, let's take it one step at a time. And then I always think it was like I keep saying supernatural because the way the songs came, not to be dramatic, but it was just like Rob said, they just came flying in through the window and we were like,
Aw.
and we were smart enough to record everything.
That's so smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I
That
would have
saved
never
us.
You have
remembered.
to capture that
you know,
magic.
the,
It's like the planets aligning. It's like cosmic. It's like, let's just record this. And I love that you said that this album really captures like the terroir of Silver Lake. I love that.
Yeah. Robert lives in Silver Lake, and he's got a wonderful little jam space connected to his house, and we really did take in, the air, the light, and the place, and we would kind of
The wine. No.
Yeah.
we would play, and then just
Yeah.
kind of we would kind of go off of, well, what are we feeling now? Right. So
Mhm.
let's write something a little upbeat. And then we would go in and we'd come back and be like, well, let's rock. Let's do a little rock in. So it was very kind of in the place, in our mood, listening to each other, listening to nature,
Aw.
and then making music.
And also like a kind of a weird conscious effort to sort of do things that the three of us really liked, I think we looking backwards and you look at I think for me anyway, I was still learning so much just about my instrument, because I'm mostly a piano player. I started
Yeah.
out. So drums, came to drums late in life. So I spent a lot of years just trying to learn. Oh, I'm still learning, like you never
Right.
really end. But I think so this time around, I think we really made an effort to sort of tip our hat to the things that we love that are sort of inside of us. I mean, we might have done that in the past too, but I think this time we really, I think it was a little bit, when time passes, you look back and you listen to the music and then you figure out, I wish, you want to record a certain sound or a certain tone or a certain genre that that's in you. And I think this really came out in this particular record. And I think having Dave Trumfio helping us was really instrumental in that because he's such a great, he's a musician.
Great. He's such a great producer.
And a producer, and Ruddy Lee Colors as an engineer, his partner. And
Mhm.
and he really helped all of us, all three of us. I mean, especially Bret, like there's so much work beautiful guitar work on the record. And that's all Bret. I mean, but the Dave sort of just having him play all these things and executing them. And then he used to call it fairy dust. It's like, here's the main track, clearly, if you're going to play it acoustically, and then here's the fairy dust. And that's stuff that Bret came up with Dave, or actually Bret came up with, it's his stuff. But Dave sort of encouraged to do that. And then it has a much more textural recording than we might have done before, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with a Ramones record, but this is a little bit different. And I love it because it really stretched us a bit. And it just sounds good.
It sounds so good.
I think that's what it comes down to. Just Dave, like, he really understood, like, there's three of us, and he understood how to layer a record. And I think a lot of his records sound like that. But
when you have the right producer, they can sometimes become like the fourth band member. They're such an important part of the recording process. And for those of you not familiar, Dave's worked with Wilco and Built to Spill. I actually worked with Dave when I was doing A&R at Sony with a band called Elkland in 2005. So I've worked with Dave personally. He's awesome. He says hi, by the way. I told him we were going to be hanging out today.
Nice.
But I'm so glad that you guys connected, because I think you're right. You guys have your own sonic stamp on this album, which is really exciting.
I just listened to the album yesterday for the first time in about 6 or 8 weeks, because we've been playing live so much. And then so having gone from live version, go back to it's even more incredible to hear the production.
Yeah.
Be like, wow, this is a really fat, huge album. Like, there's a lot going on. He was, like Rob said, he was just throwing guitars at me. It was like 19 guitar tracks. What's this? And he went to the studio next door and got Elliott Smith's old guitar and brought it over and was like, play this, play it. And I was just like, okay, everything you just.
Yeah, Nashville tuning, 12 string.
Yeah,
this kind of amp and that kind of sound.
And not just which guitars, but like, he had he would things. I don't know if I want to give away his techniques, but he had little things that he would do. So he'd try this one thing, and I'd be like, oh my god, it just makes it 3-dimensional. So anyway, a lot of props to him for sure. And he made it super fun too. He and Ruddy there. Every day it was fun to come to work. Like, you just knew there was going to be jokes and just goofy fun and music.
And it ties into that whole community about Silver Lake and Glassell Park and that whole northeast side of town. During COVID, I was playing music out of my balcony at 8:00 for the neighbors, just to do like a minute or two. And then my neighbor, Ryan Crace, heard the music and we're friends. And then he's like, what's going on with Dogstar? And, maybe when all this is over, and he he introduced us to Dave. And it's just a neighbor recommending another neighbor who Dave lives up the street. And then it just sort of became this sort of like family of everything happened in a sort of organic
organic community.
Yeah, just around the community.
Yeah, and
that's
beautiful.
We recorded in Glassell Park, which is very close. And Dave mixed at his home in Silver Lake. And Bret was staying there. He had a place in Silver Lake by the reservoir, which he took a photo of this Rowena Reservoir, and Bret came up with the title of the record by that. And you should explain that.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that. Tell us about the title, the album title.
I'm trying to remember what came first, the picture or the. I think the picture was first, and because I was in bed.
Keanu's like, I'm not sure.
Can't answer that.
That's all you, Bret.
That's all you.
My memory now. That was already a year ago. So I was hearing a lot of coyotes because that's what's going on over. The reservoir was empty at that point. Mm-hmm. So I guess the coyotes were living in there, and they had some dens in there, and they were just like, it sounded like hundreds of coyotes at night, every night around 9:00. And so I would get up and
that's impressive.
It's like right around sunset.
It was like my cousin Vinny, like you're trying to record a record, and it's like the train. Every night you got nailed by coyotes.
I did, yeah. It was also like, laying there in bed thinking, well, first of all, not sleeping while the coyotes are going crazy, but thinking like, wow, this is like a concrete city, but there's still so much nature happening. So my brain was just going like, God, where do they live? Like, where do these coyotes go? This is all like apartments and houses, and they creep in and they got a little hiding spot somewhere. And so I went out there, and it was like sunset, and I just took a picture. I'm not a big picture person. I'm like, I use the phone as a phone. I'm one of those weird people that like just answers the phone.
And uses the phone and actually makes like calls.
Yeah, maybe some text. But I don't usually take pictures, but I saw this cool image from my front yard that just looked like it needed to be photographed, and I took it, and it ended up being like a picture of palm trees and tons of power lines, and the reservoir was empty, and somewhere the coyotes are, you don't see them in the picture, but I'm sure they're nearby. And it was also like a 3-layer sunset. So like we had like a gray and then a pink and then a blue, kind of just the way the sun was cresting or whatever, setting, and the moon, and there was some birds on that. I was like, wow, that's kind of a really cool picture. So I sent it to these guys and was like, look at this picture I took. I was so proud of one of my 9 pictures that I've ever taken in my life. And then I would drive to the studio, and there's, super industrial, area crossing the LA River. And I kept thinking of like, for some reason, I kept thinking of like all the palm trees everywhere you look, there's palm trees, but they're just randomly scattered. And you start looking at phone poles, which were trees at one point, but they're man trees now, right? They're man-made trees. And so, but at one point that was a tree. Now it's just a phone pole, but they're like with their little brothers that are palm trees. So anyways, it just kind of, I don't know how exactly, somewhere between the palms and palm trees, but it just kind of seemed like everywhere we went, that's what we were seeing again in Silver Lake and Glass Hill Park.
Oh, that's cool.
It just felt like that was kind of our fenced in, Jurassic Park. And we were in there playing around in the middle of it somehow,
Somewhere between the power lines and palm trees. That's really, really cool. Yeah. Look at you, photographer. You didn't even know.
I haven't taken a picture since.
Maybe let's just cap it right there.
You know what I do? I take pictures of my parking space when I'm in the garage, so I know where my car is.
Okay,
that's about the only
not as artful. Everything Turns Around is the first single. It's awesome. I've heard it like 100 times. Tell me about it. It is one of my favorite songs on the album.
I mean, going back to the supernatural aspects of this.
I love this. It's a recurring theme.
I remember for some reason, I think it was like Keanu said, well, we were at a point where we were like, let's try an upbeat song, because we may have just done a slower, more moody song. So we kept trying to keep ourselves interested and flip-flop back and forth. And I mean, we had like a bunch of stuff that never got used, that never became songs. So we were just we had like some Latin sounding thing at one point and didn't make it for good reason, I guess. But so yeah, we tried everything and we were just having fun. And I just remember, for whatever reason, just putting a capo on the 3rd fret on my guitar, which I didn't consciously think of. I just took it and put it, and I didn't think, well, let me try the 3rd fret. My hands just did that. And just like the sound of that made like a guitar riff, like kind of, and then kind of that was that, I think. Mm-hmm. And that one came fast, right? Like that one seemed like it came pretty quick. Yeah. I think that one kind of like, again,
sometimes the best songs just kind of come out.
Yeah.
It was weird. It was just like, and I think back now and I'm like, why did I decide at that moment? I mean, just trying things, you're just putting in hours and experimenting. And
capos are your friend.
They are now.
Yeah. Wait, those are capers. I'm sorry.
Capos and
I put
capers.
Some capers on my guitar, and then some salmon, and then we came up with Everything Turns Around.
Yeah, it really changes the tone of the guitar.
Yeah,
and you're playing the same chord formations, but they're sounding so tonally different because they're higher up on the neck. And I always loved songwriter guys like,
Elliott Smith has always a capo on the 2nd fret.
Yeah, and I mean, Lindsey Buckingham, I believe, and some of the Tom Petty stuff, kind of the guys that I listened to on the songwriting front, were like always playing with different guitar tunings and different guitar, and so that I guess just seemed like a good idea at the time, and maybe it was a good idea, right? We got our first single out of it, so
it's great.
And then I just remember that one rolling out pretty quick. I don't think we struggled too hard on that.
What was your lyrical journey?
Oh, the lyrics. Oh.
Wait, who's interviewing who now? Tell us about your lyrical journey.
Thank you.
What was your lyrical journey?
Perfect. That was my next question.
Cold compress?
Perfect. Thank you, Keanu.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, bring it. Bring it. I appreciate that. Lyrical
Does this
journey,
have to
Bret.
be water? Okay. All right. No, that song is self-explanatory. It's just a happy, I mean, it's weird in a sense that it's written from a dream standpoint, where if you're not having a great day, maybe you're lonely, and then at night, this character that's singing, he falls asleep, and then he dreams about being with this woman, and then when he wakes up, it's back to reality. Mm-hmm. So he looks forward to night, where he gets to go to sleep. And then it's like, maybe she does show up in real life. It's kind of...
And who is this special girl?
Better question, who's the guy? Who's this guy that album is about?
That's true. It is a metaphorical... It could be a metaphorical
It's feelings,
person,
it's not people. It's like... trying to grab those human emotions and experiences that me and other people I know have had, and trying to make it interesting.
But doesn't that happen a lot though, when sometimes a writer, you think, oh, they're writing about themselves and their lives, and it turns out, no, it's not. It could be, but it could just be like a novelist just writing about fictitious
just inspiration.
Characters. Like I learned that from listening to, I think it was Bruce Springsteen on the Howard Stern show, when I always thought that was his life, that he was writing about, racing in this, like that was New Jersey. And Bruce is like, no, for the most part, he's like, no, that's kind of like a dream state of my relationship with my dad, and then sort of creating this other sort of thing. I mean, maybe pieces of it were real, but a lot of it was just creatively imagined. And I think that's cool too, because then you have metaphors and you have different ideas. And maybe it's easier also to not, everything has to be like personally about yourself, but it could be a piece of yourself.
Piece of it, yeah.
And
it resonates with everybody universally too, because there's something like I think in your songs, that I resonate to as well, but you weren't writing about my life, but
I might have been wrong. You guys don't know.
Yeah.
But
it's all coming out now.
I feel like, oh, you know what? I understand exactly what that is.
Yeah.
But
it's just storytelling. It doesn't necessarily need to be your personal story. It's just inspired by a story.
I think, and as a lyricist, I think that's what Rob just said is exactly what you want, is you want everybody to have their own interpretation. At least I do. I don't like things so on the nose that it's like, this is obviously what this is about. I mean, sometimes, but I love that he has different interpretations of what he had his vision of what Bruce Springsteen's song was about, which wasn't in reality what it was, because Bruce ruined it for you on the Howard Stern show. Took away your childhood. But, it's cool that everybody has, and sometimes you meet people and they say, oh, I love this song and it makes me think of this. And I'm like, oh, I never thought of that. So it's really, really special to have everybody take their own.
It kind of also makes me appreciate the writer even more, like Bruce or anyone that does that, because you're like, oh, that's even more creative than I thought you were, because you're not just writing from experience, you're literally creating a whole nother one.
Yeah.
And when you listen to classical music, there's no words. And you still have emotions too. And they're not words, but I almost get emotions when I listen to music without words at all, whether it's Ennio Morricone or Bach or something. You have like a feeling for it.
That's why you can play your songs in different countries and they don't even understand the lyrics. It's not about always what you're saying; it's how you make people feel. Oh, yeah. And that's the power of music. It's just that connection, how it resonates with so many different people and so many different levels. And that's why music is the universal language.
It's the only one.
It's beautiful.
It's the only notation that's universally recognized throughout.
Something else.
And we'll be right back. No,
something else in the way that this was written so quickly. I say quickly, a couple months. But if you added up the hours it took us to write this album, it wouldn't be that many. I don't think, compared to how a lot of people probably do it. And I think that we ended up with so many songs so fast, then none of them had lyrics because we were crafting the music first. I would scribble a little bit of ideas here and there as we were going, but for the most part, we were thinking in arrangements and thinking in, should we have a double chorus here, or should we have a single chorus, or no chorus, or whatever, just whatever we were mixing it up. And then I would go back to the Bay Area and I would have all these rough recordings with no, I would fake sing some melody lines that came to me. And luckily on this record, which makes it way different than all the other ones, Keanu had a lot of temp title ideas. So he was like, I like Sunrise for this one. And so it was like his vision of the song already kind of gave me a jumping off point.
Without the words.
Yeah. So in a way, it's kind of like it gave me a launch pad that I wouldn't normally have sometimes. They didn't all have temp titles. Some of them were like the time of day, 5:15. That's the song title for now,
That's a Who song.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. Those are just based on hearing the music, you would have just like an idea in your mind and what it was called.
Yeah. Just from a feeling. Yeah.
A feeling.
And then the concentrated aspect of how many lyrics needed to be written in a short amount of time gave way to, I think, like Keanu enlightened me that there's kind of a theme. It's kind of a person's journey, and I didn't even think about that. Again, supernatural, whatever subconscious is happening. And now that he said it, I look back and go, it does kind of seem like a person is winding their way through life and experiencing all the highs and lows and the different twists and turns. Yeah. So I guess I think that all came partly because of the temp titles and partly because of the hurry up and do this. So they all happen so fast that they're all kind of connected in that way.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
so it's a
you know.
cohesive body of work.
Can we just do a group hug right now?
I know. I'm down for it. I know. Maybe we'll make up like a handshake.
I feel like
yeah.
It's a really special record in that way.
Yeah.
It
You know,
is.
if we'd taken time and done this over 6 months, it would be a completely different, completely, it wouldn't be as cohesive and as connected. And, you know,
It feels like it was like a cosmic experience and it just sort of everything aligned and it just happened. That's pretty special.
And there were no drugs involved.
Right, just for the record. Yeah.
this is why it got done.
Wait, is
You
that
just said for the record. For the record.
For the record.
wait,
literally.
is that a
Yeah.
good thing or a bad thing?
It's a bad thing. No,
No,
I
we'll find out a year from now.
No judgments,
No.
guys.
No.
It's it's something that is so, it's such a special record to go again, take 2 months away and come back and listen to it and love it even more.
Oh,
and
that's great.
I can't say that about every record I've been a part of. So it's pretty cool. And a lot of that is Dave Trumfio, but a lot of that is us just being locked down and having no preconceived notions at all. We weren't trying to get a hit single. We weren't trying to, we weren't even sure if we were going to get a record.
Speak for yourself.
Rob's got to pop it
What are we
here.
doing
Like,
here?
you know, a lot of times Ken and I would be going on a certain like arrangement and Rob would just go, no. No. And we're like,
I love that though. It's like that brotherly love where you just gotta like tell it like it is.
and he's like, why are you guys doing that? Like, you're ruining the song. Like, why don't you? And so we have that song Sleep, which for me is like in a very bizarre arrangement. But I'm just like, Rob knows things. So I'm going to let him do his thing. And I like the song, but I would never have done it that way, you know? But he's like, there's 4 choruses. That's weird, you know? But it's like, that's what it wants, you know? So,
Rob, I love that you were like, no, stop.
and that happened more than once, but it was always good ideas.
It was good.
So,
Do you vouch for that? Do you think
Absolutely.
okay. Yeah. All
In
right, Rob.
In Rob, we trust.
yeah.
In Rob, we trust.
He knows
I love
things that
that.
we don't know. You know, it's we all know things that each other don't know.
Aw.
And that's what makes it cool is really like, and there's just that openness where, you know, we get along. So
Yeah.
nobody's being, you know, critiqued or
Yeah,
like
that's
no
beautiful.
cross looks
Well,
across
you guys
the
have a
room
history together. Like I said, it's like that brotherly love. And I'm sure during this process, it brought up so many memories and, you know, reinvigorated just like, you know, the passion that's, even though the band wasn't together with hiatus, the passion and the connection, the friendship was always there. So it's beautiful that it got to be reignited. I want to learn more about each one of you as far as music, you know, like growing up, what did you listen to? And at what point did you know that you wanted to make music yourself?
I just had a
after
therapy
you.
session. You
After
guys
you.
start over there.
You start.
No, why?
You're from Canada. You have to start.
No.
You're further north.
Where do you
We're
start?
going from the north
He
down to
liked
the south.
hockey jock jams.
Okay,
Yeah.
so is it okay? So
I want to hear the Toronto
Well, I don't
Canadian
know.
aspect,
I don't
Martha
know.
and the Muffins and all that stuff.
no, but like when you
Wait,
speak
what?
about, I don't know. I grew up in a household of music, and I think because my mom at the time was a costume designer for Dolly Parton and Emmylou Harris, and you know she had friendship with producer Brian Ahern and Bob Ezrin. And I just remember playing her LPs. You know, it's like Boz Scaggs and Randy Newman and what else was it? I mean, all of the kind of 70s rock
How old
was
were you?
in there. Well, when I was going through the LPs, like 8, 9, 10,
Just discovering
11.
what an LP
Yeah,
is and
like-
holding
Yeah.
it and looking at it and
The liner.
Yeah, a lot
Yeah,
of times
yeah,
sitting
yeah.
on the floor with your legs out and going, "What's
doing it right?"
this?"
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and then playing the record player and playing the music. Yeah, and I had a record player pretty young, so of course the Beatles, but
Yeah.
Revolver, Abbey Road.
So you grew up with like the Beatles and all that. And then when
Yeah,
did you
and, like,
decide you
listening
wanted to
to-
play?
Well, I always listened to the bass lines. I mean, the world changed. I had a girlfriend at the time who'd kind of changed my life musically. Shout out. And so she introduced me to like Joy Division, and I'd heard the Ramones, but it was like Joy Division and
New Order.
Yeah, New Order, and what else was in there? I'm just trying to think of.
I remember you telling me Cat Stevens at one point.
Oh yeah, Cat Stevens was during the
You're 9-year-old.
8 and 9 year old.
Okay.
But so I went to the Guitar Center on Sunset Boulevard when I was 22 years old, and I got an Ibanez white bass with a rosewood neck and took it home and started
That's awesome.
doing that. Yeah.
That's cool.
So I just wanted to learn how to play, and I'd done the same thing with riding motorcycles. I'd always wanted to ride motorcycles. And so anyway, I learned. And so it was kind of like, I have no idea, but I wanted to learn how to play bass. And so I went and got a
That's
bass.
really cool.
And
So was Peter Hook someone you looked up to?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's, Joy Division
I
all
bet.
day. I mean, just, the riffs, playing chords and, so that his playing style and the way that he fit into a song, was probably the most impactful kind of way that I play.
That's cool. Yeah, because
Yeah.
he treats the bass like a lead instrument, like it's the main event. It's pretty cool.
I guess that probably was born too because I was by myself, right? 22, 23, 24. And then, you're just playing. So you end up playing chord. You're not going to go, when you're by yourself, you're not like, dum, dum, dum,
Yeah.
dum, dum, dum. Well, actually, you are kind of.
You are
Smoke
kind
a
of,
little
but
weed.
yeah.
You're
Right,
23.
totally.
You're by
Yeah.
yourself. And dum, 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 dum.
That's our next song, right
It's
there.
so good. There we go, guys.
Yeah,
We're writing
this is
music
it.
right here.
Yeah.
But then
Although
you're
Peter
like,
Hook
"Bram,
dabbled in
Bram."
vocals, though, too. Is that something that you
No,
might?
you don't want that.
No.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool.
Yeah, that's funny.
What about you, Rob?
There are songs on the internet that people are claiming are Dogstar songs that Keanu's singing, and it's not true. I just want to get that out there.
Damn AI.
There's some song called Rain. There's another song, and it just keeps coming up on the internet like Keanu's singing. I'm like, I finally asked him like a year ago, like, is this you? Nope, it's not me. But it won't die. It's just people are insisting.
AI.
Well,
Anyway,
this will
so
be
that-
your first iteration of having streaming because your last album, of course, was before all of this. So Dogstar Music will finally be on streaming platforms, I'm assuming.
Yes, hopefully.
That's the
Yeah.
idea.
It was on before, but it was removed.
I know, because I looked for it and I was like, okay.
I won't mention what happened, but
Okay.
Let's talk about your musical journey.
Let's talk about the
Let's hear it,
lingo.
Rob.
Let's hear it.
Now, are you going to take your music from playing piano and doing shows like the way that you were doing, entertaining, or are you going to tell your drum story?
I think
Yeah.
Or they
it's
interconnect.
Which
kinda
one? We
similar
need to know, Rob.
A lot of it is similar to Keanu's because I had older sisters, and so I would get those records that they would buy, and then my dad was in a distributor of wholesale distributor of all sorts of things like Zenith. So we always had record players and speakers and stuff. So we always had the gear because that's what he
awesome.
sold in New England. So for me, it just goes down to my age. So the first thing as a young person, of my age, you remember is clearly the Ed Sullivan Show, and it's like the Beatles, and then the whole world just changed, just like it just changed. So I was very young, but I heard them, and then of course, as a young kid, we get in America the Monkees.
Yeah.
So you're growing up on TV and you're seeing this, Davy Jones and Mickey Dawn. You're seeing this sort of fictitious thing on television, and I was just obsessed with Mickey Dolenz and his drums, and I just, but then I started listening to all the Beatle records, all of them, like Rubber Soul, Revolver, the White Album, Abbey Road, and then Charlie Watts and the Stones, and then all the records my sisters were handing down for me. So I just became obsessed with everything British because that's all I knew. Nothing really American. For me, it was just all England all the time. England could do no wrong, So then as I got older, I sort of drifted into the same thing where Keanu was talking about, was sort of post-punk sort of that sort of scene, like the Smiths and the Cure and Joy Division and New Order and the Clash and the Jam, and I love Paul Weller and I loved all that sort of sound coming out of Manchester, that sort of Northern England sound. And it's funny because they were probably, all those bands I'm talking about were probably influenced by American sort of, they could be American blues artists. Who knows who they were listening to when they were younger, or if they're older than me. But somehow the twist that they did, the sort of the British, those bands, just the way they just twisted things into something completely cooler. it
They
just
sort of still
resonated with
it's
me.
Still, yeah.
Yeah. And I think I was
It's
reading.
still amazing.
Even when I listened to Blondie, which is an American band,
Right.
I listened to Clem Burke playing drums.
Of
I'm thinking,
course.
I thought he was from England, just the way he was attacking things. And I'm thinking, so he must, I feel like those guys, that whole CBGB era too. And then, as you get older, you just start listening to all different styles of music. But for me,
when did you buy your first drum kit?
Okay, so I...
Now that we have the history of music.
I know, I'm sorry about that.
No, but it was the Sex Pistols and the Ramones
I
happening
know,
in two
I know.
different
When
continents.
When did you buy your first kit?
So piano, I'm a piano player. So I started on piano. So I got that out of my system. And then I was in college, bored and to death. And this guy across the hall had a drum set. He's like, hey, you can play anytime. Give me the keys. So I started banging on things there. And then when I met Keanu
in the
90s,
early 90s,
I met him.
Was this in the supermarket? Is that a true story? That's how you met and you were wearing the hockey jersey. Is this true?
Yeah, I was wearing.
Let's hear it.
I was wearing bra and panties. No, I was wearing
Detroit.
I was wearing a Detroit Red Wings hockey thing. I don't know why. And we just met that way. And he's like, do you play hockey? And I was like, yeah, I do. And we ended up doing hockey together. So he had a house up in Beechwood Canyon. I can say that now because you don't live there anymore. So right under the Hollywood sign. And when I went over his home, he had a garage and there was a drum set already there. It was his friend Mike's, a great guy. And so I started banging on that and moved away from the piano.
Got it.
And then we started making noise in that garage. And then I went out and got my first drum set at the Guitar Center in Hollywood, the same place.
Oh, that's cool.
This guy Watts took me over there.
What?
And I
Shout out Watts.
Yeah, 1991 DW drum set, which I still have. It's the only drum set I've ever played, except for some Ludwig snares, and just learned in that garage how to play drums at the ripe old age of 26 or something. So
that's awesome.
Late to the game.
So Keanu was a little bit of a catalyst for your drum
he
playing.
was the catalyst. Yeah. He was the catalyst because I was off in piano land, playing parties and doing keyboards and then I just wanted to hit things.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to, that's something else. Like I'm also attracted to the bass.
Yeah.
But I didn't have I feel like I had the right, skill
Groove.
for it. So being so obsessed with Ringo Starr and all that stuff and that kind of moment, I thought, I just felt really attracted to the drums at that time.
Yeah.
And that was it for me. I just never looked back.
Brett.
Well,
let's do it together. Ready?
Brett. Better be good. All right. I'm gonna not go all the way back because I
go all the way.
I grew up in a household that the radio was on 24 hours a day. So even when we slept, when we were awake, it was just my mom was all music all the time. She could play you can hand her this thing and she'd figure out how to make music out of it.
Oh, my kind of girl.
Unbelievably. Yeah, she could play anything except my guitar, actually. Oddly enough, she plays ukulele and she doesn't understand the transition to the guitar. There isn't really anyway. So always music being, and it was always songwriter stuff that she was listening to. So I just absorbed all the Cat Stevens and the Elton John and the all of the greats from
Neil Diamond,
John Denver, like all this stuff was just coming. And I, unconsciously think I absorbed song structure from that. I had no idea I wouldn't write my first song until I was 17, but
when I was 17.
Yeah, it was just, in there.
I love that.
But for me, it was, I blame MTV.
Yes.
I guess we got, the big day in our house was we got cable, and MTV, my friend across the street had it. And I was like, Mom, we got to get it. I don't care. Well, I'll work an extra paper route, whatever I got to do, got to get MTV. And so the first song, I remember like it was yesterday. I turned on
Duran Duran.
We had a black and white TV and I turned it on. It was U2, Gloria.
So good.
And
no,
that's
no,
not.
it's
Gloria.
Yeah. And that song it's just like so haunting and so intense. And then the images of them being on the barge in Dublin and all that. And I just remember thinking like, I was 11 and I remember thinking, this is what I'm going to do. Not this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do no matter what. That's pretty lofty for an 11-year-old.
Be on a barge in Dublin.
He worked on a barge for 10 years.
I wanted to
learn Irish.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I poured Guinness for people. No. Yeah. I wanted to see the world. I wanted to wear those clothes. Yeah. I wanted to, just be accepted in a group. Like, I was a little overweight kid. So I had some problems that overweight kids tend to have with, bullying and whatever. And so for me, that was like the promised land. It was like, if I could get there in that world, not only could I see the world, but I would be like, there would be like an acceptance and it's kind of sad now that I say it looking back, but it was kind of part of why I worked so hard at it. And then getting in a band in high school and seeing the immediate.
Wait. Where did you get the guitar?
Oh, the first guitar.
Keanu.
I believe the first guitar
It's a new show. It's going to be Keanu and Allison.
I skipped to high school. I got to back it up. So the first guitar I got from Mom, it was a Les Paul copy. I think it was $99, which, back then was a lot for, some. And so it was cool. I wish I still had it actually. But I didn't understand that I didn't understand you needed a cord and an amplifier to make it sound like. So I always thought I got an electric guitar, and I hit it for the first time. I was like, this doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that you needed to
has to be electric.
Buy more stuff and, like plug it in. And then I eventually, spent all my paper out money on effects pedals and the whole thing. But yeah, the first time I did it, I was disappointed. Like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And then I learned that there's a whole process of electric stuff that has to happen. And then that became, every chance I get, I want a different guitar. I want to, I started collecting.
You became like a gearhead.
Kind of, the cheapy stuff, because that's all I could afford back then was, again, all those guitars I've sold and gone, but, it just became like, an obsession. It wasn't like, oh, look how little Bret's got a little passion. It was like, I was like locked in.
Like, this is happening.
Yeah.
I was reading a Henry Miller book. I think it was Sexist or something. Henry Miller. Yeah. Henry Miller book. And I just was in the sentence, and I just brought that in. I was like, what about Dogstar? I just thought it was an interesting name. But really, all right.
It's a great name.
It's kind of like the titles that Bret was telling about, like, we just sort of things that sort of pop up, like the arrangement of words. I mean, it's interesting.
Dogstar is a great name.
Yeah.
It's no Wild Stallions, but we'll take it.
Excellent.
Thank you. Okay, March 19th, 1992, Dogstar plays Raji's in Hollywood.
Yes,
Nice.
I remember
This is
that.
a big deal, and I want to hear about it because Raji's, I've never been there. I was too young for it, but I remember, like, on the Nirvana 7-inch single of Sliver, it's like Kurt Cobain with Raji's in the background. I would just always hear stories. Tom Morello's talked about stories, seeing Tool or Jane's Addiction. And tell me about what that club was like and what the culture was like at that time.
Was Raji's after Cosmos, or was Cosmos
I think it was
before Raji's first?
I think it was first.
Yeah.
Or if it wasn't first, it was second. It was right around that time.
Sure.
There was a hotel that we played in the back bar.
Yeah, but that
hotel.
was right.
Yeah.
Was that Raji?
Sam
That
Kinison
wasn't
was
Raji.
there.
That was
Really?
Was that
That's cool.
Wait, was that Raji?
No.
No.
The Raji's one was interesting because, we were really raw.
We played there a lot.
This was your the debut show, apparently, was at Raji's.
Yeah, it was mostly just friends in the audience.
Right.
God. And, it was
because there was forgiveness there.
the band that opened up for us. You ready for this one?
Yeah.
Weezer. Okay, and they were already good. That's the thing that drives me crazy. I was like, these guys were already good. Like I don't know where they were woodshedding.
They spent more time in the garage.
Yeah. To me, it was very raw sounding, but they were just.
They came up with their name that day because they had called Raji's, Rivers Cuomo called to try to get any gig, and they were like, "Oh, actually, you can come tonight." And they had to quickly come up with that name, and they played with you guys.
They got that name from watching your sound check.
Which week horse sauce? I don't know.
Listen to this band. They're kind of wheezing. They're kind of wheezing.
Weren't you both in Speed together?
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is amazing. When I made that connection, I was like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
That was 95 or
What
6.
button did you push?
That's right.
Right.
That was the
Wow. See
line.
that?
Did you guys work together at all during that?
Yeah, he helped me out of the elevator. He's like, and it was dangerous.
And he's been
looked
lending
dangerous.
a helping hand ever
Yeah.
since.
It looked dangerous.
They built this elevator shaft inside of the studio on the Fox lot, and it was like ropes and pulleys, and they'd let it go like this, and then the elevator, and then we had to get out of this hole. And I'm thinking, if that thing goes down while someone's in there, they're dead. They're cut in half. And there was a point where it was a little shaky, and I remember you got upset. You were so concerned. He's such a nice person, and he was so concerned about the other actors that were in there. You know, not just me, but he saw something that was like maybe not quite kosher. Like this could go wrong. It didn't.
Yeah.
And he saw that before, and maybe they made an adjustment. I remember that. I'll never forget that. You were walking back and forth, and you were just like, I don't know. And so when you see us in the elevator, we're really frightened.
You're genuinely scared.
That's not acting. I'm like, I don't want to go through that hole. What if that fucking thing just comes down? And so you can see everyone in there just like, "Urgh," and it looks great. And everybody was safe, and it was a lovely time. And Keanu was great in that movie.
So Dogstar went on to tour. You opened for David Bowie, Bon Jovi.
The Bowie thing was interesting.
That's what I wanted.
He was on tour with Nine Inch Nails, and they were doing whoever.
I'm Afraid of Americans.
Yeah, if they were doing a thing together where it was like Nine Inch Nails would open up, and then Bowie's band would blend in with them, and they would blend together.
So
and
cool.
then Nine Inch Nails would sort of peel off, and it was just Bowie. And if you ever see Nine Inch Nails in concert, it's one of the greatest concerts you'll ever see. I mean,
agreed.
They're beyond good.
Yeah.
So I remember that it was Halloween, and I guess he had some days off, and he wanted to do a small club show. I guess the Palladium. And I remember I was playing hockey. I was skating.
Not a small club.
Yeah, this is before cell phones. Actually, Palladium is not a small club. This was before cell phones. You know? And I remember going to the payphone at the Burbank Pickwick hockey rink to check remember you had to check your messages, like you check your machine or whatever.
Yeah.
For those, yeah. Anyway, so I did that, and it was a message from our then manager or a friend that was helping us out, and she's like, David Bowie would like for you to open up for him. David Bowie. And I was like, who the fuck is David Bowie? I was like, there's no way it's David Bowie. And she was pronouncing his name funny. And I was like, I thought it was a crank call. I honestly thought it was just a crank call. So I didn't even call back. And then I finally did. She kept calling. And she's like, no, this is like a real thing. So we freaked out. And we went there, and he was, oh my God, he was so gracious. We were doing a sound check, and we were really, I don't know, once again, the exuberance of youth that Keanu always says, when we were doing like a Comfortably Numb cover. We were like doing like a Carpenter's.
We did a Carole King.
You did a Carpenter's cover?
No, we did a Carole King. So far away.
You teased me there.
So we were doing all this crazy stuff, and they gave us a time slot. And I remember David Bowie was watching our sound check, and he was sitting in the side like this, smoking the cigarette like this. And he's like, and he goes, would you like me to hold the doors for you a bit longer? Remember he said that? And I'm thinking, it's like, wait, do we need to rehearse more? Or is he just being really nice? And he's like, I love it.
He's like, you're not quite there yet.
It was just so sweet. God. Yeah. And he's just like, he was
in the typical
nice.
Dogstar fashion of jumping in the deep end with our clothes on. Like, well, let's do it. Let's play Bottle Rock for the first show back. And what could go wrong? Let's just do it. Like, that's what we did. That's what we always do.
We were unannounced at that show. Like, we weren't billed on that show. And so no one, when we came on to do that set, all these Bowie fans were there. And, immediately it was nice. The reception was very good. And then it's sort of like halfway through, they kind of figured out what was going on. And they were like, And but it worked out really well. That was one of the shows that actually we did okay with, and I was really pleased with. And
how incredible!
It was, he's all our hero. David Bowie's, to me, it's like there's like John Lennon, David Bowie,
David Bowie.
It's like the top of the pyramid.
That's it. It's the otherworldly. Over the years, you guys have remained friends, and what do you think it is about your connection? Do you think that it's like a brotherly love? Is it a friendship? Well, that's a given. That's a given. We knew that already. Yeah.
He's like they're.
I think
family member.
This time around, it feels like there's a brotherly thing happening for sure. there's just it feels like a family. I don't know if that's brothers or uncles or whatever you want to call it, but it's just definitely I don't know. It's just fun.
Wonderful.
It's just fun, you know, and we're kind of like, as long as it's fun, we'll hang out and do it.
Awesome.
Yeah, none of us, you know, we all have sisters and none of us have brothers in our families, you know.
Oh, I never thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, we have somewhat similar, you know, stories to tell about our youth. But yeah, I think a lot of it is just, is friendship for me anyway.
But it's also, you know, I've been in a ton of bands over the years growing up, you know, in the Bay Area and playing in so many different, you know, whether it's a cover band or a punk band or whatever I was doing at the time. And it's not easy to find people you like and make music with them. You know, the personalities, right? It's not easy to find friends. You got your friends and you count them on one hand, right? And then it's the rest of the people you know.
Yeah.
But
being in a band is like a marriage.
People.
It is.
Yeah, but it's really hard to be in a creative environment, and you have to be comfortable to do it right. You know, you have to feel like non-threatened, and I'm bringing this idea, and I hope no one makes fun of me or, you know, does, you know, and so
or say no, that sucks. Stop right there.
You know, the arrangements are one thing.
I never say that. I never say the S word.
You just say stop right there.
But I think that's probably for me what makes this band, you know, makes me want to show up to write and rehearse and record with these guys, is that I enjoy them as people. And it's in a lot of the bands I did not enjoy those people.
Right.
So not to go negative, but you know, you search high and low, and then you weave your path, and hopefully you land in a good spot. You know.
Well, this is special. That's beautiful, guys. Timeline wise, how are we going to balance everything? I know you have like a million movies on the horizon. How are we going to make sure we get our Dogstar time?
We want to play.
Perfect. Let's bring back Raji's.
We want to play, and yeah. I mean, I think
I organized the entire strike so he can be available. That's all my doing, and it's very selfish of me, but
no, we want to play. We want to play. We you know,
there's time for everything, right?
Yeah,
yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, we got some really amazing folks. We got some really amazing management and wonderful team around us to help do the most and the best we can. And we want to play. We want to play live. We want to make more music. And
he's the riff master. He keeps coming up with all these new
that's so
verses.
Great.
So, you know, I do want to do everything. I mean, I want to, you know, I love acting, and you know, it's my life.
Yeah.
But I love music. I love playing in this band, playing with you guys.
Oh,
love you.
We love you guys.
I like
you got us on a good day.
You know, it's like, and we want to rock, man.
We want to rock.
We want to rock.
That's awesome.
You know,
really quickly, deep cuts, rapid fire. Ready?
Oh no!
Do you want to do it like in a circle? Or you want to just shout it out?
Let's shout it out.
Okay. Name a song, album, or artist that changed your life.
Love Will Tear Us Apart. Joy Division.
So good.
U2, Unforgettable Fire.
Oh, I love that album.
David Bowie Changes.
Well done, guys. First concert.
My first concert was Yes opening up for Chicago at the Yale Bowl. I'm really old.
Alice Cooper, Welcome to My Nightmare.
Oh, man. These are your first real legitimate concerts?
That's
my
impressive.
mom knew Bob Ezra.
But I mean, that's the first time you guys ever... Because see, mine was like...
What was it?
I almost want to like tell you my second concert.
Okay.
My first one was...
How about your first
it was like
favorite
a puppet show.
No.
No, the first
legit concert.
First, oh my God, concert was Thompson Twins with Flock of Seagulls opening, Oakland Coliseum.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, can I shout out to the Ramones being like 17 at the Salty Dog in Buffalo, taking the first car, driving with some friends and seeing the Ramones.
Yes.
Anyway,
I still have hearing damage from when I saw the Ramones in the 80s, 90s,
that's
whatever
incredible.
it was. Yeah.
That's amazing.
It was way too close to the amps.
Yeah, well.
I got to see Bad Company.
Oh, that's amazing too. It was worth the permanent damage. That was worth it.
It is certainly, yes.
What's a song you wish you wrote?
The national anthem. No, I'm just kidding.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Love Will Tear Us Apart.
Yeah, another one. Yeah, I agree. That is such a great song.
Oh my God.
Anything by Harry Nilsson.
Yeah, that's a good call. That's a good one. That's a good one.
God, I mean,
Last Train to Clarksville.
Okay,
Okay.
pick today. Like as a songwriter, like that kid who was like listening to the radio and listening to songwriters. What
That's
song
right.
where you're like, that's
American Girl by Tom Petty.
no, it would be my first record I ever got would have been Glass Houses by Billy Joel.
Oh, that's a good one.
Mom gave it to me in a pizza box, so I didn't know what it was until I opened it, and it
That's
was an
sweet.
actual
And you ate
vinyl.
it.
Your mom sounds
And I tried
really
to eat
cool.
it. No, my mom's amazingly cool.
Your mom sounds amazing.
I don't think this song was on that album, but She's Got Away.
Oh, yeah.
that
is
song
a
was
great song.
One of the first songs where I was like, my heart got tugged.
Oh, that's a great song.
I was like, you can do that in music?
I haven't thought about that song in a while, so thank you for bringing it up. That's a
Yeah.
magical song. Favorite movie?
Oh, with music?
Just anything that comes to mind.
That's a nice little.
That's a good one. I like that
Since
angle.
this is podcast. I mean,
Okay.
Harold and Maude, the Cat Stevens soundtrack to Harold and Maude.
Good one.
That's a really incredible
A perfect
combination
fusion. Yeah.
of music and filmmaking. The Hal Ashby, for me, that's Harold and Maude with the Cat Stevens soundtrack. I don't know.
Classic.
Let's just.
Tomorrow I might have another answer, but
Against All Odds. Jeff Bridges.
Right.
you're out of the band.
Great music, great locations. Mexico, just great everything in that.
It's true.
Great car chases on
Yeah.
Sunset Boulevard.
No pressure.
Let's move on.
You
Okay.
can say hair. You can say hair.
Oh, hair's really good.
Hair is good.
Tree.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hair.
man.
Okay. Favorite meal or cuisine?
Mexican food.
Oh, are we going to piss off all the vegans?
You do you.
Vegan
How
Mexican.
about some good cereal, ice cold milk?
It's like Jerry Seinfeld.
Right.
What
Some
cereal? What cereal,
like
though?
growing
Rob and I were
Which
talking
kind?
yesterday. We could eat Mexican food every day.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's like
Yeah.
the most colorful. So many different ways to do it, and
That's
I
a
just
good
like
one.
it, but you would pick. Okay, I'm not.
I like Northern Basque Spanish food, but if I have to pick, yeah, that's what I like. But I like beef bourguignon, Julia Child's beef bourguignon.
Great.
Come on.
Great.
Rob's quite the chef,
Are you?
Yes.
Oh,
which is another reason this
wow.
record got made. Because I was living at his house, and I was like, I'm not leaving.
Oh, that's
I'm getting
amazing. I
fed over
didn't know
here.
that, Rob.
Legitimate.
Yeah,
Legitimate.
Wow.
Leon's like real pots and
Legitimate.
pans.
Rob, I can't wait
Legitimate.
to try your cooking.
I will cook.
I'm trying to
anything.
get him to make a cookbook.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
anything. Yeah. If
Well,
you're
make sure to-
vegetarian, no problem.
Make sure to include Keanu's favorite cereal, which he
Yes,
still
I
has
will
not
just
named.
put Captain Crunch.
Who
on-
doesn't want?
Oh,
like,
I love cereal.
Morning, noon,
I ate
night.
it. I had it last night.
Morning,
I
noon,
just had
night.
it.
You're a
Yeah.
night cereal person.
I'm an any time of day
come
cereal
on,
Jerry
person. It's
Seinfeld.
You eat
delicious.
dinner and then 2 hours
Okay, why
later you're
not?
hungry. You're
Cereal
like,
can be done at
dude,
any time.
come on.
Anytime.
And there's so many options.
I
Yeah.
had
You
cereal
know?
this morning. That's all I've had.
It's great.
I was lucky enough to do a Seinfeld episode, and when I got to the set, he had like 45 boxes of cereal lined up backstage. He's apparently obsessed with cereal, like Brett
Wow.
mentioned.
Yeah.
And I was like, "What's going on with the cereal?" And he's like, "Help yourself, help yourself. Cereal for it's for everybody. It's for cereals for you. It's for everybody."
It's so
And a whole week long, I was like eating every day. I couldn't wait to come in to try like a different.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
See?
If you could meet any musician, dead or alive, who would it be?
Bono for me. I keep going back to the
Yeah, I'm with you.
U2 theme,
I
but
support your love of
I
you
almost
too.
met him. He almost crashed into me
Really?
in Hollywood. Yeah. He was screeching tires behind me, and I looked up, and he was like, "Sorry." I
Oh my God.
was like, "Why didn't you just hit me?"
You should have just
Why
let
you
him
just-
crash into you.
Yeah, it would have been the best.
Yeah. I do love him.
So wait, what's your answer?
John Coltrane.
Bono. That
Oh,
was my.
that's a good one. That's a
Yeah.
good one.
Probably be like a very short conversation, but it would be cool just to say hi. Shake that man's hand.
That's amazing. All right, Rob, that's a hard act to follow.
John Lennon.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Man, that's,
Yeah,
that's
okay.
kind of a good
There
answer.
it
These
is.
are
What's
good.
the
Yeah, that's the
truth?
mic drop.
The truth.
Yeah,
That's
I
it.
mean,
I think we
you
should
go.
probably end it right
Those are
there
John
because
Lennon's.
it's not going to get better than those three choices. Bono, John Coltrane, and John Lennon. Done. Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I
Thank
love
you
this
so much.
album. I'm so psyched for this chapter of Dogstar. I'm so glad I was at the first show, and I want to be at as many as I can attend. So
Oh, we're
Thank
always
you.
going to be on the
Thank you.
list.
thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you for allowing me part of this next era of Dogstar.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Awesome.
I had the best time hanging out with Dogstar, and I also got to see them at their LA show this week at the Roxy. It was such a great show, and Alex Winter
was also there, who of course was Keanu's co-star in Bill and Ted's, and I really had to hold myself back from rattling off a number of quotes from the movie. But Alex and Keanu are both so cool and gracious, as are Rob and Bret and Dogstar. Great people all around. It is now time for my sound advice, new music you need to know on the Allison Hagendorf Show playlist. We are kicking off this week with the new song from our guests, Dogstar. This is their first song in decades, and I was lucky enough to see its debut live at Bottle Rock and then again this week at the Roxy. The band just announced an album is on the horizon, as well as a tour. Check out the latest from Dogstar, Everything Turns Around. Next is the band Lovejoy from Brighton, and I often say that there is something in the water there because I pretty much love every single band out of Brighton. The Kooks, Royal Blood, Yannicka, Architects, Black Honey, and now Lovejoy. They recently put out their third EP, Wake Up, and it's over. Check out the opening song, Portrait of a Blank Slate. Also, my sound advice is the latest from Ava Maybe. Ava has musical talent in her blood. She is the daughter of Chili Peppers drummer Chad Smith, but she is completely forging her own path as a musician. She cites Janis Joplin, Amy Winehouse, Sam Cooke, and Leon Bridges as influences, and was recently on tour with Lovely the Band. Check out her latest song, Limerence. That's my sound advice this week. You can hear all of these plus more on the Allison Hagendorf Show playlist, which you can find wherever you listen to music. Thank you so much for being part of the Allison Hagendorf Show. New episodes drop every Friday, so make sure you follow and subscribe so you don't miss a thing. You can find the show wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also watch the show on Instagram and YouTube. I would love to hear from you. So please like, comment, rate, review, whatever you're feeling, and reach out to me on socials at Allie Hagendorf. I would love to connect with you. Let me know who I should interview next and what new music I should feature on my sound advice. Thanks again. I'll see you next week. And remember, you're a rock star.